Mr. Mishel, thank you first of all for this opportunity to discuss your visit and your messages today at the Sitel newscast. You have just finished your meeting with the parliamentarian groups, with their coordinators at the parliament. What came out of these meetings?
Now, I have the impression that we had the occasion to exchange views, to exchange arguments. It was important for me to be here because it's an important moment, and it's important also for the EU to explain what's the proposal. But of course, it will be the responsibility and the sovereignty of the authorities to take a decision, and it is also the responsibility of the people of North Macedonia to give a signal.
You have came here twice in 2 weeks. It's obvious that the European Union wishes to close the issue that has been blocking the Macedonian and Albanian start of negotiations with the European Union. But why do you think that this proposal is a good one, since it is a proposal that really only gives Macedonia the opportunity for screening and not for starting the negotiations and opening chapters?
You are right that, in fact, since March 2020, we lost a lot of time, and not because of North Macedonia, because of the unanimity that's needed at the EU level. And the recent months and weeks, we worked a lot together with the French rotating presidency in order to have an agreement by unanimity in the Council of the European Union. And the proposal on the table is, in my opinion, a balanced proposal, because it takes into account the legitimate concerns on both sides, and also because it will allow to start immediately the negotiation talks. I give you one concrete example. You mentioned the screening. We will start, if there is a yes that would be expressed, we will start immediately the screening. It means the full screening. It includes the bilateral part of the screening. And another important argument, if North Macedonia would say yes, it would mean that automatically, in case of decision to change the constitution, there would be a certain IGC without need for a new decision. It means that this is an automaticity, and it means that the opening of the negotiations would be completed.
Yes, but to really open chapters, Macedonia will have to change the constitution first. And for that, it requires 2/3 majority in the parliament. You have spoke with the parliamentary groups. You are obviously informed that there is no such support at the moment, and probably not in the foreseeable future, since you have probably witnessed that also the public opinion, the support of the Macedonian public is really lacking in this process for the constitution to be opened and then to really open the chapters. Then is the European Union satisfied with Macedonia only doing the screening, going through that process without really opening the chapters and being able to really move forward in the process?
But the screening is a very important step, and for each start of negotiation talks, we start with the screening, and it will take time because this is something that requires a lot of efforts on both sides, point one. And point two, there is a fundamental question for North Macedonia, for the people in North Macedonia. I know they are sincere, and they want to be part of the free world. They want to be part of a society based on fundamental freedoms and democratic principles. And if it is the case, we have tried, it was not easy, I recognize, but we have tried to open the door. And now it will be the decision of North Macedonia to take the step. The constitution, for instance, I do understand that there is a need for a 2/3 majority, and it means that there is a need for a democratic and respectful debate on that question. But at the same time, I am confident if there would be a yes expressed by North Macedonia, that the people of North Macedonia immediately they will see in the following days that we start together with the authorities the negotiations process, that we start the screening. They will also see because we would start the negotiation talks, that North Macedonia will be much more involved in some EU programs, for instance, because we are in favor of a gradual integration. It means that without waiting for the completion of all the process, it will be possible to have more ties, to have more cooperation, more coordination. I give you another example. We have decided to mobilize a huge financial means never seen before in the framework of an economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans. There are concrete projects in the field of the energy sector, for instance. I mean, if there is a yes, if there is a choice, and a clear choice expressed by North Macedonia, it will open huge opportunities to strengthen immediately the ties with the European Union.
Well, yes, that's really good to hear, but what Macedonians are really concerned, and you could see because protesters were waiting outside of the government when you were having meetings there and have been present at the government meeting. The protests are ongoing, it's really massive. Experts are criticizing what has been said in the framework and what the French proposal really contains. Even small political parties that are part of the government are not supporting this proposal. So is it really good to make such an agreement in such a climate? Because this kind of agreement, this kind of framework would obligate more generations of politicians and more generations of Macedonians to really stand by it. So is it not better to have an agreement that will be supported by the society?
Yeah, first of all, I have the impression that there are fake news that are expressed about the agreement. I'll give you one example. I had the occasion to read some so-called experts explaining that the language would be put into question or in danger. This is not the case. On the contrary, I have formally expressed on behalf of the EU our respect for the Macedonian language. I've also explained to the political actors today that if there would be a yes with the start of the first intergovernmental meeting, immediately we would start the translation of the EU legislation in Macedonian. This is a very clear signal. I've also had the occasion to explain this principle of automaticity that would allow us to start immediately the negotiation stalls. It means it is very important to be calm, to be quiet, and to allow a political debate with mutual respect and actual respect for those who are not convinced. And I do understand, because of what happened after the Prespa agreement, that there is a feeling of hesitation, a feeling of doubt. And that's why I took the decision to come here, to meet all the political actors, in order for me, on behalf of 27 EU member states, to explain what's the substance of this proposal, what's the balance of this proposal, and to try, and thank you for giving me the opportunity, to explain and sometimes to oppose some fake news that are spread. And I know that some citizens, political players, they are sincere, but I also know that probably in this country, like it is the case in many European Union member states, there are also third countries which are using fake news, disinformation, in order to advance their own authoritarian agenda.
Yes, but I think that what Macedonian citizens expected is to have the same rules for joining the European Union as every other country had, the Copenhagen criteria. And in this case, there are other criteria that have been added to the framework, such as the history, for example. Although the proponents of this agreement are claiming that historical issues are not going to be part of the framework, we can still see that there is the need to sign the so-called protocol. There is also the need to have the annual reports. The agreement on friendship between the two countries is part of the framework. So can you be certain that Macedonia will not be blocked by historical issues, or is the history our passport to the future?
Yeah, but thank you for this question, because I hope it will allow me to try to clarify the information, because in fact the protocol as such is not in the negotiation framework. But what is true, this is not a secret, this is not a surprise for you and for the Macedonians. This is the fact that the EU, we try to encourage good neighborly relationships, not only between North Macedonia and Bulgaria, also with all the Western Balkan countries, and it's the same among the EU member states. This is a general principle, this is one first element. And the fundamental question in the short term, in the following hours, there is an opportunity. I think, and I would like to tell you as a friend, I think this is a unique opportunity, and I hope you will not miss this occasion to take this fundamental step for the future. You know, a few weeks ago, when I had the occasion to come and to to visit Ohrid for this meeting with the Prime Minister and the President, I had the occasion to speak with my heart and to explain that for many years, because maybe I have children, I am convinced that for my children and for our children in North Macedonia and across the European continent, it will be more safer, the world will be more safer for them if the Western Balkans, North Macedonia as well, are part of the EU. And that's why I'm absolutely convinced that it's extremely important to take into account not the rumors, not the fake interpretations, but what are the facts. And my goal with the meetings I had today was really to take time to listen to the question, to do my best to answer the questions. We cannot predict everything, of course. And of course, there is a fact. There is the unanimity principle within the EU. And probably one of the reasons why we are discussing some reforms at the EU level, and maybe some member states would like to put into question the unanimity principle. This is because of this example, where we have seen that for North Macedonia and for Albania, it was not possible to make progress because there was the veto right expressed by one member state. But a few days ago, we succeeded, and it shows our political will on the EU side. We succeeded to lift the veto. We succeeded to put on the table an offer. This is a balanced offer. I don't say this is a perfect proposal. It doesn't exist, a perfect proposal. And at the EU level, we need to make compromises. No one is able to get 100% of what he would like to get on the EU side. This is the DNA of this European Union project.
Except for all Bulgarian requests being in the framework
I do not agree, because I would like to repeat that the protocol is not as such in the negotiation framework, because probably in Bulgaria, some political actors, they would have preferred to have immediately the change of the constitution before any step. This is not the proposal that's on the table. And on the language, I would like to repeat what I said formally after the meeting with the Prime Minister. We respect the Macedonian language, and the fact is a very important signal that all the EU legislation will be translated in Macedonian. This is a very clear signal, in my opinion.
On the language issue, do you expect that all the future documents of the European Union will also be accompanied by this kind of unilateral statement as the one that Bulgaria will give for the start of the negotiations for the framework? And has there been any other example in the European Union that this kind of unilateral statement has been given by another country for the language of another country?
No, I can tell you that first, I'm not able to predict what would be the unilateral statements meant in the future. I must be frank and transparent, this is obvious. But the unilateral statement, maybe later, when you will be member of the EU, which is my wish, you will use for some other topics the unilateral statement. The unilateral statement is something that could happen at the EU level. I have 8 years experience in the European Council, and I can tell you that I have many examples in mind of unilateral statements that were used in order for a country to say, yes, I agree and I support the collective decision, but I would like to explain what are the circumstances that we need to take into account, in my opinion. But it doesn't make it impossible that we take the decision. This is an unilateral statement, and sometimes when we are 27 member states, this is a tool that we use. Not too often. I prefer when we don't have unilateral statement. But very recently, we needed to take decision on the energy sector. And you know that across the EU, there are different situations in the field of energy. Some member states used this unilateral statement in order not to block the decision, in order to take the decision, but by making clear officially what are the circumstances of this collective decision that's taken.
Yes, I understand. I was just referring to having a unilateral statement about somebody's language. I haven't heard of such a case. The international community, including the European Union, had the stance that bilateral issues should not be put in the framework. Why has this changed? And how come it became somehow bilateral.
Yeah, but in fact, if we are very clear, the reality is more balanced in reality, because in fact, for the Western Balkan countries, for the enlargement, the European Union made very clear many years ago that we want to encourage good neighborly relationships. This is also not a surprise for anyone here, that in other countries of the Western Balkans, we are encouraging efforts for the normalization of the relationship. For instance, the Belgrade-Pristina dialogue is an example. There are difficulties, and we are encouraging efforts in order to diffuse the tensions, in order to overcome the disputes. This is also not a surprise that within the EU, sometimes we could have, we can have, and we have difficulties at the bilateral level. And it's my responsibility, and here I think that I have a special role to play. It's my responsibility as President of the European Council to make sure that we avoid as much as possible that bilateral topics would be instrumentalized in order to spoil an enlargement process. But I would like again to repeat that the EU institutions, we are totally committed to make sure that everyone will be fair and will use the different tools with respect for the philosophy of those tools.
The French suggestion has not been the first one. We had the German, then the Portuguese proposal. Is this the last one? Is this the take it or leave it situation? And what if Macedonia at the end decides that because the society doesn't accept it, it won't accept this framework? What will happen? Is this the end?
No. In fact, it was not a take it or leave it, because you know that the proposal has been improved. This is not the first version of the proposal. It's very important to take note that because we listen carefully to the concerns and the priorities of the authorities, we have improved the proposal. Point one. But I must be frank and I must be transparent, because I sincerely hope that there will be a positive decision. I think that this is a unique occasion, and I feel, based on my modest and humble experience on the EU side, that if there will be the decision not to say yes, I think that we will wait for a long time before it will be possible again to make a proposal, and I'm very doubtful that a new proposal would be very different, or even would take into account so much the legitimate concerns of North Macedonia and the people of North Macedonia. That's why I have the impression that time is now. This will be the responsibility of the authorities, of the people of North Macedonia. This is a sovereign choice. We will always respect the choice of the people of North Macedonia, but my impression is the following. Sometimes in a political career, there are important decisions that we need to take. It is not every day or every week that we face such an important moment and such an historic moment. And the decision that will be taken will not only have an effect or consequences tomorrow, it will have an effect the next years, probably the next decades, because it will give the signal that we energize the process with the Western Balkans, that we start the negotiation stalls. And I think that this window of opportunity should be used to accelerate, to speed up, to implement the reforms that are needed, not to please Brussels, but because it is needed to improve the conditions of life of the people of North Macedonia, because it is needed in order to make the country more attractive, to fight against corruption, to attract more businesses and more economic and social development in the country.
Mr. Mishel, thank you very much for being part of our news.
Thank you.